All right. So I hope everybody had a good month off that we didn't do these, and hope you missed us, a little bit. So glad to be back, and vacation was good. We all relaxed and had a good time, and just forgot about most everything, and that was pretty much where we're at. So we're back full strength, ready to go and help people. So tonight we're going to talk about the brain. What I'm going to ask is people to mute themselves, and then
It's been recorded.
Okay. What was that? Okay, if anybody can mute, that way we won't get a lot of feedback and stuff if your pets or kids or somebody comes around. So we're going to talk about the brain. Okay, anybody worried about brain function, malfunction, anything like that? Patty raised her hand. Nobody else?
Molly did.
Oh, Molly did. Okay.
Donna.
Lorna. There's Denise. Okay, hands are coming slow. Nobody wanted to be first.
Figured I would.
Okay. A very real thing, and we're going to talk about some stuff, and I don't even know if we're going to get through it all tonight because there's so many things we can talk about, and we're going to talk about the different stuff that goes on, and we're going to kind of tailor it to Alzheimer's. And when I start, I'm going to tell you that every time I do something like this, people ask one question: what is the difference between dementia and Alzheimer's? Okay, and there really is no difference. The difference is that dementia is a term that describes symptoms that impact the memory, performance of daily activities, that type of thing. But it's really an onset of Alzheimer's. Okay, and Alzheimer's and dementia really are basically the same thing. Where Alzheimer's can affect the language, worse perhaps than dementia, thought processes, etc. So the symptoms of Alzheimer's is, and I'm going to go through the 10 symptoms. And what I don't want you to do though, I don't want you to hear the symptoms and go, I have that, so I must have it. That is not true. It's kind of like people saying, I crave sugar, I must have candida. That's not true, okay? Or I have trouble sleeping, so I must have something. And that's not true. What it is, these are symptoms and possibilities that could be leading us down that path. We're going to talk later about different ways to correct the problem, slow the process down if we're going down that path, whatever it might be. So what happens is there's many different symptoms, and Alzheimer's disease is a neurodegenerative disease that causes increasing impairment of the functioning of the brain, and it's over time. So when you say, oh, I can't remember something, you're not getting a case of Alzheimer's, or you're not starting on Alzheimer's. Okay, there's many reasons why we can't remember. And society, scientists, education has a lot to learn about what is Alzheimer's and what exactly does it do. Symptom number one is memory, okay? Memory is the first symptom of Alzheimer's. Now, we all have memory lapses, and that is not Alzheimer's, okay? When we talk about memory, we're talking about the things that we normally do on a regular basis that should be regular. You know, that you've done pretty much the same thing all the time, and all of a sudden you can't remember to do it. So what happens is people forget the occasional things from time to time, okay? You know, if you forget an appointment or turn off the oven, that is not what we're talking about. It's the things that you do over and over on a regular basis that we're talking about the memory loss. We see a lot of jokes about, why did I walk into this room? I can't remember. I can't remember why, what room I'm in, etc. But that's most of that is stress. Number 2 symptom, and probably more, is poor judgment. Okay. These will often be minor decisions, like, what to have, what do you want to have for dinner? Not remembering or not doing the things you need to properly prepare. And it's an onset, so it comes on slowly, and sometimes you don't even notice it until it gets a little bit larger. But it's poor judgment, not being able to rationalize. So what happens is people will begin to struggle to make right judgment calls when it comes to what to wear, etc. Wrong calls at work, struggling to cope, remembering to pay their bills, those type of things that are a symptom of Alzheimer's. The next one is the ability to find words. Now, what I mean when we're talking and you just can't find the words that you want to use where before you could. There's, in our vocabulary, there's between 20 and 30,000 words, okay? And normally when we're speaking, we all have a certain number of words that we can recall based upon things that we do on an ongoing basis. We all have a different vocabulary. I don't have a tendency to use big words because most of them I don't know, but we all have words, and when we can't think of the things that we want to say, then it starts becoming difficult to have discussions with people. And it's a gradual inability to find the words. It can happen to anybody. It's not happening to people that are less intelligent, but it can happen to anyone. So it's not a matter of intelligence, but oftentimes when people forget like that, they have a tendency to think that they're losing their intelligence, etc. Okay, and obviously this can be very, very frustrating to people because people will try to help them with the words and it becomes frustrating. Number 4 is difficulty planning. Okay, so planning and number 2 was poor judgment, can be kind of lumped maybe together a little bit. But what happens is planning helps to keep us organized. And when we have difficulty planning, then what happens is we just get off kilter. We put more stress on ourselves. And the one thing I'm going to say is that stress is one of the biggest causes of brain issues that there is. And it is constant stress, never ending stress. It can be stress that comes from the outside, or it can be our own self-perceived stress, all right? But so difficulty planning, we have to focus on details. And if you lose that ability, then what happens is people just can't find their way. They can't get going because they just don't have a plan, okay? And it leads to a lot of mistakes. Number 5 is loss of interest. Now, when I say loss of interest, I'm talking about loss of interest in things, hobbies that they always loved to do, friends that they always wanted to be around, those kind of things. It's not loss of interest, in things that don't matter to you, like politics or something, but it's the things that we used to want to do. So for me, it might be like I like to play golf or different things like that, ride the bike and stuff. So that would be the things I would be looking at if I said, you know what, I just don't have interest. Oftentimes what happens is people with loss of interest will become depressed, because what happens is they quit getting out, they quit doing things, and then they start getting depressed. And we know what happens when depression hits. We have a tendency just to draw back into our own shell, and then we don't do anything, all right? So, and it can be loss of interest in people that they're around, people that their loved ones. Number 6 is confusion. And confusion is, you know, just not being able to focus, not being able to say to yourself, okay, you know what, I just gotta start from scratch and move forward. Just don't know how to get started, have a difficult time getting motivated to start. And that means that simple tasks can become very confusing. People struggle to understand the basic things that somebody might be talking to them about. They can't comprehend because everything is confused and all the words become jumbled, or they're thinking so hard about trying to understand that they just lose their mind fit, okay? So, number 7, visual changes. Now, when I say visual changes, I'm talking about sight, okay? Things we just see differently. Sometimes we can, much of our information that we get is perceived through the eyes. And it's not about your eyesight getting worse. It's just what you perceive and how you see things that you've seen before. So if the brain is to begin losing its functionality, then it can affect our ability to see no matter how healthy our eyes may be. So you can go to the eye doctor and you can have great eyesight, but if you just can't see things properly, that can also be a brain function. And one of our supplements that we have from the systemic line is for the eyes and the brain, okay, because they actually work very close to one another. And that is why sometimes people that are suffering from the onset of Alzheimer's get their eyes checked and they're told, you know, they're not deteriorating. You don't have macular degeneration, anything like that. And it's very confusing because people feel that their eyesight is not what it should be. Number 8 is simple tasks become very, very difficult. Because a lot of the things that we do in life are what we call on autopilot. Okay, we just do them. It becomes habit. Like brushing our teeth and showering and making our bed and, you know, picking up, doing things like that. That becomes just a routine. It becomes automatic. You don't even have to think about it. It just happens. All right. But it can include things like cooking or driving or washing the dishes and something like that. And then, of course, it becomes very frustrating and demeaning. And one of the things that in a lot of these, it's very demeaning for people because they can't do it themselves. And when somebody steps in and says, let me help you, they feel that people are looking down on them. They are thinking they're dumb, stupid, and that's all perceived. But somebody's perception is their reality. And we always have to remember that if somebody feels that way, then it's their reality. So it becomes even more frustrating, and they tend to work that much harder to try to get it right, which puts too much stress on the brain. Number 9 is repetition, okay? The same thing, what happens is people will start repeating things over and over. They'll do the same things over and over. They might wash their hands over and over because what's happening is they're forgetting that they washed their hands. They forget that they told you this certain thing. So it becomes very repetitive, and they lose sight of what they've done and what they've said, what they've told somebody. And we all joke about sometimes people as they get older, they tell you the same story over and over and over every time you see them. Okay, it's not so much that if you see somebody once a week, once a month, that's really not it. It's stuff that they repeat maybe within the same hour. Okay, that's more what you're looking for than, you know, say you haven't seen somebody for a while. And number 10 is mood changes. Okay, moods are very, very important to watch for. But mood changes can be caused by many, many things. It can be changed by hormones, okay? It can be changed by stress right now. So if with the pandemic and a lot of people have been locked up virtually for months. We're going to have a lot of mood changes. Okay, so we have to understand that. So if you're thinking of somebody that, man, this person's had a lot of mood changes or moody, don't be thinking right away Alzheimer's or dementia. It can be the circumstances of the situations. But one thing that I worry about is with all the people that are quarantined and locked up and not working, etc., the mind is taking quite a beating. Okay, we are really putting our minds through a tremendous strain. Then if you happen to turn on the news and you listen to all the stuff, you know, we're going to have a lot of mood changes. So the number 10 one, the mood changes, I would pretty much set that aside for the moment and be thinking more about some of the other stuff that we talked about if you're looking at yourself or somebody else. Okay, so with that in mind, a show of hands, did I touch anything that people are saying, wow, that's kind of interesting or I'm concerned about? No? Okay, good. Well, one or two. Okay, got a couple. Okay. Barbara's done driving now. She's hope you didn't drive into the living room. So, okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to ask Patty to set up the slide presentation, and we're going to talk about things that we can do to help ourselves. Okay. Now this says 10 things that every woman can do to take care of her brain. So please, Mike, Ken, who else is on? Bob, Bruce. Okay, don't take this, as a female thing. It's every person. Okay, but I will tell you that Alzheimer's, for every 3 cases of Alzheimer's, it's known that 2 of them are female. Why that happens, we do not know. I have my guess. And my guess is that in my experience in working in this business for 20 plus years, women take on a lot of responsibility. They put themselves last in a lot of cases. They are worried about everybody else. Us men, we don't quite function exactly that way. We're more, and I'm going to use this word, and I don't mean it in detrimentally. We're more logic. We just say whatever is, it is, and that's just the way life is. Okay. Some people might say, well, that's not caring. I don't know, but women have a tendency to take on everybody's problems, and they try to fix everybody's problems. And that takes a lot of energy, brain function. So what I'm going to tell you is that I believe that's why 2 out of every 3 Alzheimer's cases is female, okay? And most of you that I've worked with, I've told you, take care of you. You got to put yourself first. You got to take care of your health before you worry about anybody else's health, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I believe that even more today in talking about this subject than before, okay? Because it's very important that we make sure that we don't take on too much, all right? So they say that every 65 seconds, a new brain develops Alzheimer's. If you think about that, every minute, there's a new case of Alzheimer's, okay? And then, like I said, 2 out of 3 belong to women, and the risk is even higher for women of color, all right? So we have to take that, understand it. Somebody might ask why women of color. I could not tell you the reason why. I would love to know. Scientists and some of the best researchers in the world have no clue. But when they study the people that have Alzheimer's, females and women of color are at the highest risk. So what I'm going to tell you is, and this is not taking the Ken and Bob and Mike and Bruce off the hook, but women have to take better care of themselves than men. It's just the way it works, okay? So if you have a higher propensity for it, that means you have to take better care of yourself in advance, because what we do today will protect us from what's going to happen tomorrow. And that's something I want you all to remember, all right? So the thing is that they say that women's brains are different from men's and have unique needs. And I think I've probably covered that a little bit, okay? They say that up to a third of Alzheimer's cases may be preventable. I honestly, in my opinion, it's higher than that, but I'm not going to refute what scientists say. I'm not always agreeing with all scientists, but I think it's higher than that, and I think Dr. Nelson would concur with that. But we're going to go through 10 simple things that every person can do to reduce a risk of dementia and Alzheimer's, okay? Now, before we get into that, some of you have seen this before. If you're not taking care of yourself, you're going the wrong way, all right? So the thing is, he who's not busy being born is busy dying. What that means is, if you're not taking care of yourself, then you're allowing yourself to go the wrong direction. So there is no status quo. There is no neutral. There is no, I'm maintaining my, whether it's brain health, physical health, emotional health, any health. We don't just maintain. We are either getting one way or the other. It's very much like age. We are getting older. We're not getting younger. So we are moving in a direction, okay? If we don't take care of ourselves and we're getting older, then we're just moving faster towards the early death. That's just a matter of fact, okay? So that's why some of you get sick and tired of hearing me say, take care of yourself, and stuff like that. And but that's the reason why, okay? All right, now, change the diet, okay? Change the diet. And again, somebody that's listening is going to be saying, and I've heard this so many times, and the reason is you hear it all the time is because it is true. What we eat affects our brains, okay? If you believe that what you eat you are, then you have to believe that what you eat affects your brain, because what your brain does is what you are. It affects your hormone levels, your menopause symptoms. It affects every aspect of our body. So we need a diet rich in fish, fatty fish, I should say. And when I say fatty fish, I mean wild, okay? I don't mean all shrimp and stuff because they carry mercury, and we know that those kind of chemicals impact the brain. Some fruits, lots of vegetables and raw nuts, which helps to reduce inflammation. And we do get inflammation in the brain, all right? So brain health, etc. So some ideas of proper meat or proper food is grass-fed or pasture-fed meat. That would be your poultry, wild game, beef if you're going to eat beef. Lemons and limes and berries, okay? Now we detox with lemon. When people tell me, well, I don't like the lemon because it hurts my teeth, it hurts my gums, whatever, etc. That means you're acidic. That means you have a lot of inflammation. And anything worth fixing, there is some pain, okay? And we have to get through it. So lemon, limes, and berries. Avocados and avocado oil. Green tea with, pure green tea. Non-starchy vegetables. And while I take a drink of water, I'm going to let Patty tell you what non-starchy vegetables are.
That's funny. So things like broccoli, cauliflower, green beans. So the starchy ones are your potatoes, basically. So all your other greens, spinach, kale. There you go.
Okay. Thank you, Patty.
You're welcome, John. How was that water?
That was good. Turmeric. Now, oftentimes people will tell me, I'll talk to them and they'll say, I'm healthy. I take turmeric every day. Turmeric by itself will not fix everything, okay? Turmeric is a very, very, as long as it's pure and clean, it's very good. But you can overdo turmeric as well. That'd be like saying, I'm going to eat salmon, wild salmon every single day, and that's all I'm going to eat, and I'll be healthy. That is not true, okay? We need a lot of different things, but turmeric is one of them. Wild caught fish. I stress wild caught, okay? Because otherwise you're getting steroids, you're getting things in your food. Bone broth and vegetable broth, excellent source of nutrients. Apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar is excellent, and people that have been on Candida know you can have apple cider vinegar during the program, and that's because it's a healing. Ginger. So there are a lot of spices that you can get nutrients, and ginger is one of them. And when we do our Zytoscan food scan for people, it'll show the different spices. I encourage people to use spices on your food. You know, not only, you're not doing it just for taste, you're also doing it for nutrition. Extra virgin olive oil, again, make sure the bottle is dark in color, not the light color where you can see the liquid. You want it dark. Fermented vegetables. And fermented vegetables, Patty?
Sauerkraut, pretty much it.
But not the canned, okay? Really, if you're gonna do sauerkraut, it's best to try to make your own or have somebody make it for you, in my case, okay? Coconut oil and coconut butter, coconut milk, and coconut flakes. The only thing with coconut, make sure you get the unprocessed. And you will see on the shelf, it'll have unprocessed and processed. You want unprocessed.
Unsweetened as well.
And unsweetened, yes. And that is actually good for teeth. It's good for your gums to put in your mouth and swish it in your mouth. It's excellent. Basil, oregano, thyme, rosemary, sage, all those, sounds like a song, doesn't it? So is a song. All that stuff is excellent, excellent for your health. So use it. Garlic, onions, and chives, okay? Those are things that you need to be using. So don't worry about garlic breath, okay? Don't worry about onion breath. Worry about brain health. And so what? If somebody says you smell like garlic, let it go, okay? I'd rather have that than poor brain function. So that's a number of top anti-inflammatory. So real quick, I'm going to tell you the pro-inflammatory. When I say pro is not positive in this case, okay? Pro is a negative. Refined grains, whole grains, flour, and grain flour products.
In other words, bread.
Yes, Maureen. Yes, bread, and all the time. Today I must have had 2 or 3 texts. People, can I have, what kind of bread, what kind of flour? If we're looking about pure health, we want to limit that as much as we can all the time. All right, I'm not saying never, but it should not be a staple in your house. When you go to the grocery store, you don't need 2 loaves of bread for the next week. All right, you don't need it. There's other things you can use. Deep fried foods, processed foods, and most packaged foods. You know, I always talk about some of my family who lives in Mississippi. They eat fish all the time, but it's deep fried. And they wonder why I never, ever talk to them that they're not going to a doctor, been to a doctor, or should go see a doctor, because they're all sick. And I keep trying to tell them you have to change your diet, and they tell me, John, we eat fish and veggies all the time. It must be the air. No, because you stick them in deep fried, terrible oil, and then you eat it. That's not veggies and that's not fish, okay? You've just ruined it. Grain-fed meats, grain-fed eggs, fast foods, and sodas. Those are very inflammatory. And then and this is something that people struggle with all the time, salad dressings, okay? Salad dressings is so inflammatory, I should say. And because they're low with trans fats, margarines are terrible. Some of your oils, like your corn oil, stuff of that, soybean oils, stuff of that are pro-inflammatory foods. Those are very, very negative to the brain, okay? So those are foods. The next one is take a walk. Now, I don't know why, but they say that women are less likely to exercise regularly than men. I think, again, I go back to my initial, was that women have a tendency to take on more than they can handle with family. So therefore, they're always busy and they don't take the time to do it. But we need moderate, and it doesn't have to be, you don't have to break into a sweat. You don't have to be, built with a solid muscle. But it's moderate daily exercise to get the heart moving, get circulation, because you need circulation into the brain as much as you need it into the heart. All right. So we have to understand, just like the muscles, brain is a muscle. So we've got to get circulation to it, and we've got to take care of it. Number 3, get enough sleep. I would venture to guess this is one of the areas that most people have a problem with, getting enough sleep. Again, they say women have more trouble sleeping than men, but in most cases, most, I won't say all, but who gets up with little kids when they're sick? Who does, all the stuff that happens. There's an old joke that when a woman has a cold, she just goes about her business. When a man has a cold, they're down for 3 days, and the woman has to take care of them. And a lot of that is true. But women have been taught that it's their job to do all that stuff. But you have to understand that if you've gotten yourself in a cycle where you're not sleeping, sometimes it is habit. It's not always that your body is, your brain won't shut off. It's because maybe when you were raising kids or certain situations, you had to get up or be alert or be awake or hear noises, etc. I talked to people who said, when my kids were teenagers and they were going out, I would stay awake until they got home to make sure. Well, that's all causes lack of sleep, and it gets us into a habit of not sleeping. But sleep actually helps our brains to remove toxins and proteins that can lead to Alzheimer's. And our brain needs at least 7 to 8 hours. Now, I'm going to tell you, men 7 to 8, women 8 to 9. And that is solid shut eye sleep, okay? Not watching the TV, not, resting. That is, good night sleep, and wake up in the morning and go, I feel great, okay? And I can't believe it's already 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, whatever the case is. We all have a trouble sleeping. Some tips on that: turn off the news, okay? Turn off the news and get rid of things that are going in your mind right before bed. A lot of people say, I stay up and I watch the news and then go to bed. Not a good idea, especially in today's society, because what happens is when we put all those negative thoughts in our heads, guess what we're talking about? We're thinking about. Guess what our brain is doing? We get too much going in our brain. It starts to relate to us. We start worrying, and then all of a sudden we're not sleeping deep. All right? Number 4, take care of your heart. Okay? Heart disease is probably the number 1 cause of death in all people. And let me back up a little bit. I want to give you some tips for great sleep, okay? And I want to back up because I think that's so important, okay? My co-pilot just got this from me, and I couldn't remember where I put it. Okay, have your room cool. Don't try to sleep in a hot room. Keep your room as dark as possible. Okay, we have a organ in our brain. It's called the third eye, and a lot of times when that is stressed, what happens is any kind of light, whether it's a light in the hallway, whether it's what do you call those little lights plugged in the wall? I don't know.
Night lights?
Night lights. There we go. Night lights. I guess that's a good point. A lot of times that'll wake you up. If you have to, and you have to have a light on for other people, use a sleep mask to keep it dark. Avoid caffeine within 8 hours of sleeping. Now, most of you know my theory: avoid caffeine. Okay, period. But if you're going to do caffeine, 8 hours before going to bed. That's the latest you want. So people that are doing our weight loss kits, for example, I tell you take 1 pack in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. It's not caffeine in it, but it's a coffee bean. So we don't want anything that's going to stimulate. All right. Don't eat within 3 hours of sleeping. Now I know for most people, a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, I get home late for work. My husband, my wife gets home late, et cetera, and that's our only choice." Yet then you need to eat things that are easily digested so that your body's not working. Get sun exposure. Okay, now, when I say sun exposure, I don't mean be outside at noontime at 98 degrees. That is not what we call sun exposure, good sleep, okay? Good sleep is sun exposure is morning and evening. Morning as the sun is rising, sit down, face to the sun. You don't have to be sitting necessarily, but it just relaxed, okay? You can be on a walk, a casual walk, but you want to try to face the sun. In the evening when the sun is setting, you want to face the sun. It's not when the sun is the brightest, and a lot of people in the southern states say, "Well, I'm in the sun a lot because it's so warm here or hot and the sun shines." That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about relaxing sun, and it gives you energy, which evolves later on into restful sleep. Exercise regularly, but not too late at night. If you're the type that wants to go work out right before bed or late because you've been working all day and that's the only time, you're probably making a mistake. And then avoid bright light after sunset, because as we get into a sleep pattern, and that should be as the sun sets, that's what our body wants, is a slow, just like metabolism, slows down. So the less light you have later in the day, the better. And then wind yourself down and calm yourself down, both physically and mentally, before bedtime, a little before bed. Don't try to spend too much time in bed. I was talking to a lady the other day, and she said she puts her kids down to bed and lays down with her youngest at 7:30 at night and stays in bed until 6:30 the next morning every day. That's too much, okay? You got to have more movement than that. If you have to lie down with a child, when they go to sleep, you get up and move around and then wind down that way. But it's awful hard to wind down with a youngster trying to hold them down into bed and calm them down, and you're not calm because you're worried about them going to sleep. So if you're in that boat, think about some of those things, okay? But that's some of the tips for our getting good night's sleep. Okay. Take care of your heart, as I was mentioning. Number one cause of death in our country is heart disease, and it also affects our brain. The cognitive decline is directly related to heart disease. Now, what does that mean? Got to manage stress. Okay, if you are always going around in a fight or flight mode, if there's always a problem, whether it's a relationship problem, whether it's a work problem, whether it's whatever the problem, a financial problem, your heart is always at work. If you're making your heart work all the time, it's going to wear out. That'd be like the person that exercises 8 hours a day. You can't do that. You can't make your heart work that hard all the time and think that it's not going to wear out. So you have to understand that you've got to manage your stress levels. You've got to take time for yourself, and you've got to breathe. One of the things that people do or have a problem with when they get stressed, they quit breathing. So one of the things we teach people is breathing 4-7-8. When you breathe in, that would be the 4. And you breathe in through the nose, we call it smell the roses. As you breathe in, your heart is working. The 7, hold it for a count of 7. Your heart is resting. At the count of 7, you release it through the mouth, call it blow out the candle, for a count of 8. Very slow. So in that 19 seconds, you have rested your heart for 15 seconds. You made it work for 4 seconds. And that is what we want to get into. The average person takes way too many breaths every hour, okay? We take way too many breaths. So we're constantly inhaling, And that's even, I know Michael does a lot of exercising, but some other people as well. But when you exercise, they teach you when to breathe in and then breathe out as you're doing the hard work. Okay, most people try to breathe in at the same time they're lifting the weight or whatever they're doing. And what's happening is you're exerting so much energy. And then when you breathe in, you are working the heart extra hard. And so people need to learn how to breathe, whether it's exercise or whether or not it's stress. If we breathe right, stress will decline automatically, or how you're able to deal with the stress will change just by the way you breathe. And sometimes when people get upset, I'll tell them, stop, slow down, and breathe. And then all of a sudden it's not such a problem because you're relaxing the body. So you have to take care of your heart and understand how to keep your heart from having to overwork itself. Exercise your mind. Just like your muscles, your mind has to be exercised. You can come up with many ways of exercising your mind. And I'm going to tell you what I do. And this is something, and I don't know where I got into it, and I'm not going to tell you I have the best brain in the world, but I think it's fairly good. I exercise my brain because I don't play a lot of games and all that stuff. What I do is when I'm driving and I see a license plate number, and normally it's like a 9, let's just use 9KL, and then there might be 3 numbers. As I'm driving, I look at that number and I just say, how many times does 9 go into that big number? And I multiply it. And that, to me, keeps my brain thinking, okay? You know, you don't have a calculator, you don't have any paper pens, but you got to think. We can all come up with something to work our brain. That's just something I do. I'll take all the numbers on a license plate and I'll add them all up and break it down into the one single number, see if I can figure out how quick I can do it. Those are just some of the things I do to occupy my mind, but it also, people will tell me I can figure out math quite quickly, and that's why, because I'm always doing little things like that. But that's good for your brain because it keeps your brain active, just like keeping your muscles active and exercising them and doing things. So, you know, reading, playing an instrument, a new game, anything that stimulates your brain. I worry a lot about our young generation when it comes to future Alzheimer's and dementia, because if you think about it, our young people, and I don't mean very, very young, I'm talking about people in their 30s, sometimes even in their 40s, you know, they've never had to solve problems without a calculator. They've never, you know, worked at a place where they had to figure out change because the computer told them, the cash register told them. I've become amazed sometimes, and I have a mean streak. So I'll buy something and they'll start giving me change, and I'll say, well, here, let me give you this 8 cents to make it even. And I watch the look on people's face, and it's almost like in panic. Okay, they just don't know how to do it, and I worry about that because I think, what's going to happen with the brain if you're not working the brain? What's going to happen down the road, and maybe not even at an older age, but at a younger age? That, I think, is very, very dangerous in our society. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong, okay? But that's just the way I see things. We have to stimulate the brain, be thinking, be doing things that make us, make our brain work, and try to keep our cognitive abilities as sharp as we possibly can, okay? Increase your antioxidants. Now, we talk about antioxidants all the time here, okay? Especially vitamin A, C, and E. And they say may help. I tell you it does help. Reduce stress in, again, women's brain, but so men's brain. They can help to alleviate the symptoms of menopause, in fact, okay? So hormones and brain function are very, very related, to be honest with you. How many times have I heard women say, everything was fine until I went through menopause. And once I went through menopause, everything changed, my brain function, my moods. Well, guess what? Brain, that's all about the brain. We call it brain fog. We call it many, many factors that happen to us as we go through these changes. Why? Because menopause puts a stress on the body. Okay, it's not the curse, but it puts stress. And if a female is not healthy, then when they go through these changes, and even young women that are menstruating, when you menstruate, it puts stress on the body. That is why, how many times have you heard, and I'm not trying to be crass, but somebody has their period, they're kind of grumpy, or they can't, stay away, don't bother, because they can't deal with the stress now because there's too much stress on the body. They're unhealthy, they're going through this stress, it's affecting the brain, and if you say the wrong thing, somebody's going to snap and smack you, okay? You might deserve it or not, but whatever, it's just the way it is. And normally they wouldn't be that way, but because of all that added stress, that's what's happening. So we need the antioxidants to boost the immune system. So when I say all these things, a lot of this stuff, what you're really doing is boosting your immune system, which is actually affecting your brain. I know that there's people there, and I would call on, I know Carol went through a program, and I think she told me that when she was up here with her sister, how it affected thinking and mind and all that. And Carol, when we go to questions, you can tell me I'm wrong if I am wrong, but I think you did tell me that when you and your sister were. I hope we're here. But anyways, that is what happens when we get healthy and we get the right nutrients, especially the right antioxidants in our body. Okay, and we can do a lot of that by food. Okay, too. So berries, but a lot of times it's not gonna break down and digest properly. So a lot of times we do need the supplements as well. Okay. This one I could talk about for a long time. So stress. And for me to say keep your stress in check is kind of like saying, don't get older, okay? Stress is there. It's going to happen. Stress raises your cortisol levels, and when our cortisol levels increase, it leads to your brain shrinkage and memory impairment because there's too much stress. You're in fight or flight mode. And again, as I mentioned before, especially after menopause. So meditate, okay? What I'm going to tell you, I don't care if you're male or female, I don't care if you're young or on the older side like me. You have to take care of yourself, okay? You have to understand that you are not just going to be able to keep on going forever and ever and take on all the responsibility. I did a Zyto on a gentleman right before I left West Hartford today to come here, and his cortisol levels are high. And he's telling me how since COVID, his business he hasn't been able to work and everything's been shut down. And his daughter and son-in-law and 2 young grandkids live with him, and he's helping them, and he in the evening he's taking care of them a lot, and he's takes them out for walks and hikes and plays all until they go to bed. And I said, when do you take care of you? And sometimes we have to stop and step back and say, you know what, I love the grandkids, I love the kids, I love the spouse, the relationship. But sometimes you just got to step back and say, I've had enough and I need some time for me and stop, okay? And that's what's going to keep stress in check. You are going to have stress at work. You're going to have stress in a relationship. You're going to have stress with kids. You're going to have stress in everything we do, worrying about your health and other people's health. It's going to happen. But what happens is when we over stress ourselves, we lose the time to exercise. We lose the time to engage in social interaction. We don't get a proper sleep. We don't have time to meditate and pray. We don't have time to go to church. We don't have time. And you see a common denominator here? We just don't have time. And the next thing you know, you're running 100 miles an hour. And I'm probably guilty of that at times myself. So sometimes I feel a little bit hypocritical telling people not to do it, but it's something that we all have to work on. And sometimes we might need to work on it together and talk to each other and try to work it out. They say that when we do all this stuff, then we start going back into a depression state. We start feeling lonely. And again, they say that women are more likely than men to be impacted by loneliness and lack of support. I do contribute that again to women being the primary child raisers, even though men are working and contribute. I'm not saying that, but women get bonded with their children. And then when children go off and they're empty nest, whether it's to college, whether it's, they get into relationships or married and have their own kids, all of a sudden they feel alone. I think men deal with it a little bit better because we haven't had that tremendous tie. We love our kids, etc. Granted, but we haven't had that tie down like women have, okay? So we have to keep the stress in check, and we have to do that, okay? So I was just looking at Patty, and we went through 6, okay, or 7, I'm sorry. And I want to keep it open for questions because I know people like to leave. So I'm going to keep the rest of them and we got a lot more stuff for the next class, but I want to open it up, and the stuff we've talked about, I want to open up for questions so people can ask questions on the stuff we've talked about. And I want you to keep in mind a couple of things. Number one, you cannot cure. And I don't care if it's brain health. I don't care if it's physical health. I don't care if it's emotional health. You can't cure. You have to prevent. And what we've been talking about today is prevention. The things that we need to do to prevent the things from happening. Okay? In this case, we're talking about a brain. But so I want to open up for questions. But before I do, Carol, was I right or wrong on that? Right? Thumb up? Okay. Thank you. Okay. Because it does help the brain. And every time, I just finished detoxing yesterday, and I'm telling you, my mind is much clearer today than it was a week ago. All right. So I know Bob is going to have something to say about that, but I'm just going to cut him off right there. And but that's why we stress doing all these things, detoxing and cleaning yourself, because you're helping every part of your body. So I'm going to open it up for questions. Who's got questions? So do I need to call on somebody that always likes to ask questions? Bob, go ahead.
I'm unavailable for comment.
Okay.
Does that mean we can have limes in our mixed drinks, John?
Yes,
Excellent.
you can, as long as it's water and lemon juice. Okay? Absolutely. It makes a great margarita. Yes,
Good
Bob?
answer, Mr. Hoyme.
Thank you. See, I told you my brain is quicker today because I detoxed.
I have to commend Carol on her answer.
Okay.
Whether it was true or not, she gave you the right answer.
Oh, you're all right, Bob. I don't care what Patty says. Okay.
I do.
I know you do.
Thanks, Bob.
Okay, who else has a question?
Questions, comments,
Come on.
concerns?
I have a question.
Yes.
So, I got for like, let's see, the low FODMAP for the, for like IBS, they say you're not supposed to have onions or garlic.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm kind of like taking that off mine.
Okay. So can I address that and then I'll let you finish, okay?
Mhm.
Onions and what? Garlic?
Garlic.
2 of the most powerful superfoods there are. Now, who tells you that you shouldn't have it?
This is on for like IBS and for Crohn's disease and stuff like that.
Okay, but who told you that?
What's that?
The medical doctor?
Medical world, yeah.
Okay. If the medical doctor told you that, that's because they're not trying to cure it. They're trying to keep it from flaring up. Whenever
Okay.
you heal something, it has to flare up. It has to, okay? Because everything will get worse before it gets better. So what they're saying is, don't eat onions and garlic, which are very healthy for you. I mean, extremely healthy for many things, but that's only to keep it so that there might not be a flare-up. But I'm going to tell you, I go back to you can't cure, you have to prevent. So you've got to get all the nutrients you possibly can in your body, and we've got to fix the Crohn's and the IBS, because IBS is just a syndrome. It's not a disease. Crohn's can turn into a disease, okay? Not downplaying it. It can be a very dangerous disease, but it can be fixed through the proper nutrition, through the proper cleansing, getting rid of certain foods that are inflammatory. So it can be fixed, but it's hard because when you start eating some of those things, and I would suggest as you're fixing it, stay away from for a little while, but I would never tell somebody never eat onions or garlic for the rest of your life.
Mhm. What about cabbage?
Cabbage,
Yeah,
wonderful.
good.
Why they
Yeah.
tell you no cabbage?
Yeah, well, you know what? I was just looking through that. Yeah, it was saying no cabbage.
Well, the one
It's
I
saying no
found
asparagus
says
seeds.
fermented cabbage, which is sauerkraut.
Yeah.
Okay.
It also says no mushrooms.
But remember, if we have Crohn's and we have IBS, whatever, if you believe in the gut-brain connection, if you don't fix it, you're always going to impair the brain. Always. So just leaving a status quo is not going to work.
Mhm.
Okay. Great question. Who else? Does it have to be whole garlic or can we use minced garlic?
Yeah, minced is fine.
Minced is fine, yeah. Okay. I had to refer to my chef. No, you're not a chef. What would that be? What's a female called? Is it a chef?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
chef.
females can be chefs.
Chefest.
No,
Okay.
chefs.
What is everything that is happening in your body during a detox? Okay, great. Okay, what is happening in your body during a detox? Great question. One of the reasons that people don't want to detox or don't like to detox is because of all the things that happens in the body. Okay, we get in a mindset, and I'll go back to what Barbara asked, because they said don't eat this and don't eat that, which is very healthy. What's happening is medicine wants to keep everything at status quo. Okay, I don't want to flare up. Okay, so what happens is when we detox, we're doing just the opposite. We're saying, I want everything that's going wrong to flare up because that's the only way you're going to heal it. Okay, so when people, and Deb will tell you, a young lady that hasn't detoxed in quite a while called today and said, you know, I got a headache, I feel miserable, no energy. And Deb said to me, you know, I told her to take extra Slenderade, and I told her to take maybe extra mix in her drink, etc. And I said, but the other thing is she needs to learn to detox more often. Because when you wait a long time and you live a lifestyle that's not very healthy, then every time you detox, it's harder because your body is less healthy. So to go to the question, what's happening? It's cleaning all the garbage out. So an analogy, which most of you know I like, if you use this analogy, if you don't clean your house for a whole year, how hard is it to clean your house? Pretty darn hard. But if you clean it regularly, it's much easier. Am I right or wrong? For somebody who doesn't clean house a lot, but you know, just saying. Okay. But it's easy.
My guess is you're correct, Mr. Hoyme.
Thank you, Bob. I know you're in there cleaning the house every day, so you just keep that work up. Okay, it's easier to take care of it if you do it all the time or often. Okay, so think of the same thing with the body. It's much easier to detox because your body's reversing, and everything that's happened to your body it has to revisit it as you go back. So if this young lady has been eating bad, not getting enough sleep, et cetera, then all of a sudden she detoxes, all that waste is being dumped into her system to get rid of it, but she's going to feel the pain. Okay? So Deb, is that a true story today? Okay. All right. Does that answer your question? Okay. But it's all good stuff. And here's the thing. When it comes to detoxing or doing a program, it's all good that's happening, but it feels bad. Okay. So what feels bad isn't always bad. What feels bad, all right, if that makes any sense.
Can you hear me?
Okay, I know.
Hello?
Hi, Carol.
Okay. Are you healing during the detox, or is the detox flushing everything and then healing begins when you complete the detox?
Yes to both.
Okay.
You're healing when it's dumping the waste out of your liver and your gallbladder and your kidneys. You're healing those organs, but it's making the rest of you feel worse. But you're still healing. As soon as you start taking that first supplement for detox, you started healing. Okay? It's not just during the liquid days, it's that whole thing. And that's why when people do the classic, we tell them take everything till they're gone because you continue to heal. All right? The total body cleanse is only 7 days. You don't get as much healing as you do with a classic. So I do the total body lately because I do it every month. So, but if I went 2 or 3 months without doing it, I'd do the classic.
So when he says classic, he's talking about the original detox kit that has fiber, cleanse, and detox supplements in it.
Right.
So they call the classic.
The total body is the greens and the
Packets.
the packets of supplements. Okay, that's a total body cleanse. Now, if somebody comes to me and says, I only want a detox and I have Crohn's, I'd have them do the total body because they got so much toxins. I would want to be a little bit more gentle to start. And that's why when I put people on programs, I don't start them on a detox right away. We have to eat, we have to take supplements because they started healing as soon as they started, even though they feel worse.
It seems like drinking water would be much more important during that time to flush everything through.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. So when you're on liquid, you think about it, you're doing liquid and the mix. I mean, water and the mix. Okay. So that's why when I tell people, you're going to be drinking a gallon of fluids every day minimum, they just go, at first they go, there's no way I can drink a gallon. Well, you can. And when you start feeling that garbage coming out, you need to do it in order to help yourself get rid of it. Right?
I had a question. Is there something about tomatoes and the nightshade vegetables that aren't good for you?
Nightshade can be a little
Like
bit.
eggplant and green peppers and.
Okay, nightshade foods can be problematic for people that have arthritis. Okay, not for regular eating, but if people that have arthritis, then a lot of times they'll tell you to stay away from nightshade. So if I'm working with somebody that has severe arthritis, and I work with sometimes people whose hands are completely gnarled with arthritis, I'll take them away from nightshade until we get their body starting to work right. But then we'll get them back on nightshade because there's a lot of nutrients in some of those foods that are very, very healthy for people. But in the interim, very much like Barbara said, with the colon issues, I would take her away from the onions perhaps and tell her not to do them for a little while until we get things settled and then get back into them because of the nutrients involved in the nightshade for your question, Georgiana. Okay.
Okay. I think I heard Donald Trump say the other day, it is what it is. Like you said,
Well,
it is what it is.
okay. Oh, I thought you were saying he was talking about food. I don't think he's a good nutritionist.
No, he was talking about something else. I don't know if it was COVID virus or what.
Well, a lot of stuff is what it is, what it is. I mean,
Yeah.
we can't stress over it. Very much like I talk about the virus, we can't live in fear. We have to understand, but we have to do everything we possibly can to protect ourselves from whatever it is, whether it's a virus, whether it's brain issues, whether it's tumors, whether it's cancer. We just have to do the things we can do to protect ourselves, knowing that it's out there. Okay?
Muriel?
Muriel.
Yeah, I might have missed a little bit. I had to answer my door. I have a question about
What did your
water,
door say?
John. Can you drink too much water?
Great question.
Okay. The answer is, my first answer would be just to blurt out no. Okay. However, can you drink too much water? The only way, unless, Mario, do you remember what percentage of your weight is best for water? Do you remember that?
I try to drink half my weight in water every day, but it doesn't make me feel good. I feel like I'm drinking too much. I feel waterlogged, and I don't like that feeling.
Okay, you're not waterlogged. If you're 60+% water, you've got enough water or more water than you, okay? But if you're in the 40 or 30 percentile, the reason you feel waterlogged is because you don't have enough water. I mean, it sounds like an oxymoron, but you don't have enough water, okay? And the answer to your question is no, you can't. The only way we really could drink too much water is if we put a hose down our throat and turn the water on, okay? Then you would drown, all right? But our body is going to get rid of it. And if you drank too much water, you would actually regurgitate it and throw it back up, okay? Now, before you say anything, you might feel like you're going to do that, but that's because you're toxic and your body is flushing the toxins out, much like Carol asked about what's happening. And you need more water. The more toxic you are, the more water you need, okay? So my answer to you is no, but don't put a hose down the throat, okay? Because that wouldn't be a good idea, but you can't drink too much water.
Well, should I be drinking more than half my weight in water if I'm toxic?
Yes, yes. In fact,
I don't like water, John. I don't like it.
okay,
Maybe that's why I don't feel good, because I have to make myself drink water.
then you need to find out something to put in your water that you will enjoy. And no, it's not Bob,
Like
it's
Kool-Aid or something?
Bob and Ann.
Bob and Ann, nope. Not what you're thinking, okay? No, it's, you have to put something in your
Message me later and I'll help you with that.
it can be lemon. It can be the infusions, the
Pure Invention.
pure inventions,
Green teas.
green teas. But you got to get it in.
It can be
Yeah.
cucumbers. It can be ginger. You know, there's
Yeah.
so many things you can add to your water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do add lime sometimes, fresh lime. I like fresh lime, or lemon. I do add those. I still don't like it, but
Even with the lime taste, or because we have what we call citrus bottles that you put a fruit or you put veggies, cucumbers in here and fill with water, and it constantly tastes like cucumbers or whatever you put in here.
oh, see, that's what I need.
But you got to get used to the idea that you're going to be drinking all the time.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
And I do. I mean, I'm always sipping. I mean, I have my bottle. I fill it constantly.
Now I'm gonna add on to the question. If you're waiting to drink all your water till late at night, then you're making a mistake.
No, I don't.
You've got to have your water drank early in the day, let your body flush everything out, so you go to the bathroom and you're not drinking right to the end.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Diane, you have a question?
There's her hand raised. We have to unmute you first.
Unmute, okay.
There you
There you
go.
go.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I know being a nurse, there are certain circumstances that may not pertain to anybody here, but just so you do know that you can have too much water. You can pass out from having too much water because it affects your electrolytes. If you take too much water and you don't have it balanced out with enough potassium or fruits and vegetables in your diet, then, you know, I used to work at the VA hospital and we had people that were water intoxicated and they would just constantly drink water, and we'd have to try to keep them away from the water fountains. Because
I agree. If you're not getting the right nutrients, if you're not eating properly, but it comes back to the whole thing, okay? Drinking water is not going to make you well by itself. You have to eat right. You have to get the right nutrition. Your body has to break everything down properly. You have to get the right mindset. All those come into play. And being a veteran myself and having been in a veteran center, you see a lot of these guys that have abused themselves, can be guys or women, but abuse themselves all their whole life. And then their body is very weak. So therefore, in those cases, there can be some issues. But for the people here that are on nutrients and we're teaching to eat right, I would venture to say you're not going to have that issue.
Right. There's also another situation where I know someone that is in prison and they did not have a very good ventilation system. And so instead of fixing the ventilation system, they said, well, you can just drink all you want. You can just wear your underwear and go around half naked and drink all you want. And that's dangerous too, because again, they can flush out their electrolytes. And a lot of people were passing out, going to the hospital because they were allowing them to drink as much as they could. And they were so hot and perspiring continuously that they had to drink to keep their bodies cool, but they were passing out. So it's just, you know, there's a balance, and you really have to be careful that you are eating right. It's so important.
Eating is number one. Eating by far is the most important thing. Okay. Yes. So, you know, I mean, if you're just going to go through life and just drink water and not eat properly, you're not going to be healthy. Just like I tell everybody, you can take every supplement behind me and eat poorly and not do the right things, and you're not going to be healthy. Okay. Right. There's no one thing that's going to make you completely healthy. So, who else has a question? No more? Molly, you're new. You haven't asked any questions. You're not going to? Okay. Who else? Maureen, you haven't asked a question. Okay, we have, well, let's see, Denise is there. We have this recipe. What do I do with it?
You gave it to me.
Okay, that Patty is going to send everybody. For those of you who didn't hear it, it's a keto garlic and rosemary cauliflower bread. Has anybody ever made bread? Or I've heard people do pizza crust with cauliflower. Has anybody done that? Okay. Okay, how is it? Okay. Bob, how is it?
No, we're not
I'm
getting
not at liberty to say.
It's not a pizza crust that you can pick up and eat like a piece of pizza, but it's not, it's good. I like it.
It's surprisingly good, to be honest with you.
Okay. All right. So the point
Excuse
we're
me,
going to
John?
make, yes.
Yeah, I do have a question. This is Judith.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, I left it on the chat, but you may have not seen it. Yeah, and I wanted to know if when you're eating food, is it better not to drink water, or can you drink water when you're eating?
Actually, while you're eating, it's better not to drink water. Very little water. I'm not saying no water, but you don't want to drink heavy water while you're drinking, simply because water is flushes, water cleanses, and because if you're eating healthy, you want the nutrients to be able to be broke down. All right, so you can drink water before, because that helps to fill, and you can drink water after. But during your meal, it's best not to be drinking a real lot of water.
Okay. And the other thing I asked too in the chat was if somebody has a stomach viral infection, what's the best course of action, you know, to build your immune system to fight that off? You know, and how do you best heal that? And IBS, I know the cleanse is good. Lots of water, diet, would that all come into play?
All proper food, okay, proper. Most people that have IBS, Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, all those issues, they're not getting their nutrition. Things aren't being broke down properly. You'll see when you move stools, sometimes you'll see pieces of food because your digestive system isn't working properly all the way through. But it still comes back to proper eating. You got to eat well. So anytime you have, I don't care what issue you have in your body, you got to eat right. Okay, it's still about nutrition, still about getting the right thing, and most important, get rid of the foods that are pro-inflammatory. Okay, you know, a lot of times when people don't feel well, they turn to the wrong things. They'll turn to ginger ale or stuff like that. Those are inflammatory. So you have the issue because of inflammation. Then you feed the body inflammation. Guess what? You have more inflammation, because inflammation plus inflammation would equal what? More inflammation. So you've got to understand that you've got to take care of yourself and get rid of the things that are creating inflammation. Most of us had issues if we weren't healthy for a particular reason. And the reason was we didn't take care of ourselves. We were eating wrong. We weren't getting hydrated enough. We were too stressed out. We weren't, whatever it may be. And we have to change those and get rid of those lifestyle things that we were doing and convert ourselves into the right things. And oftentimes people say, but when I do that, I can't have fun. I can't go out. I can't do this. Well, all I tell people is this: if being sick, having those issues was worth that, then keep doing it. Simple as that. Okay? If you see people with Alzheimer's and dementia, and you see people that are trying to take care of these people, all right, it's terrible. And the caregivers are getting sick, taking care of the people that are sick. So don't do that to yourself and put your family in that position, okay? Do everything in your power. And not saying it'll never happen, but do everything in your power to keep it from happening. And that is proper hydration, proper nutrition, proper everything, exercise, mind fit, prayer, meditation, all of that comes into play. That's how we do it. Do mind games, you know, play with numbers, read books, stuff like that. Okay.
Great. Yeah. Thank you.
Margaret had a question asking if enzymes help with the brain, digestive enzymes.
Absolutely. Gut-brain connection. Okay. The better care you take of the gut, the better you break down. The digestive enzymes not only helps that, but it also gives you better nutrition. It helps the stomach. So the stomach's not. Think about, a lot of people have indigestion. Anybody here ever had indigestion? Anybody here ever took Tums or I'm telling you, that is an absolute wrong thing to do, because it's doing just the opposite. It'll give you immediate relief perhaps, but it's not fixing the problem, the inherent problem. So people get on it and stay on it forever. Your body's not breaking your food down. Okay? People end up with ulcers. All you have to do is listen to the commercials when attorneys say, if you've ever taken this and you have this, you might be able to get money. Well, you know what? I'd rather have the good health and do all that stuff and get the money maybe later, okay? So digestive enzymes plays a huge role in our overall health, not just gut health, but brain health, moods, memory, everything, okay? I can't stress that enough. Anybody else? Yes, Maureen.
In the two detoxes, should I have been on the classic?
Not necessarily. No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
Because of your stomach and stuff, that's why sometimes I put you on that, okay?
Okay.
So,
I just wanted to make sure that I, shouldn't have been on the other one, the harder one for me.
Don't you worry about that. You're in good hands.
Okay.
Good hands with
Thank
alternative
you.
health.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Who else? Laura, you haven't said nothing. Look at that look on her face.
Who's that?
Lori.
Oh.
So no, I mean, I meant to call in. I did do a detox while you guys were on vacation.